What is up, Pats Nation? It's Patriots Global back here with another video, and in this one, I'm going to be talking about why I think tight end Ryan Izzo needs to make this upcoming Patriots roster. Now, if you guys would like to give back to the channel and not pay a single cent, best way to do so is just giving this video a thumbs up. It would mean so much to me if you guys would do that. It really helps out the videos and the channel heading forward. But Ryan Izzo, the guy that the Patriots took in the 7th round with pick 32 overall. So we're talking about really the end of the 2018 draft. A guy that definitely brings a nicer build here to the Patriots tight end group, sitting at 6'5", 256 pounds. The great thing here is the fact that the Patriots still have him signed for another 2 years under contract. They have him for 2020 and 2021. The great thing here, too, is the fact that the Patriots are getting him for a really nice deal. In 2020, he's only expected to have a cap number of around $692,000. And then for 2021, $867,000. So he's not even peaking $1 million in either of the final years he's under contract with New England. Now, in 2018, he really didn't do too much here for the Patriots. In fact, I believe he was one of the very many players who was placed on injured reserve before the season started, ultimately ending their season. But he is a guy that during the offseason, during the preseason games in 2018, showed a lot of promise. Coming into the game, coming in as a 7th round draft pick, he was expected to be a guy who might not make the roster. You know, he's not someone you expected to, but he was the type of tight end that was more on the blocking side of things. Wasn't someone that you were expecting to be a threat at the receiving game. Wasn't even someone you were expecting to really catch balls for the Patriots system, especially under Tom Brady. He changed that game, he changed thoughts, and he turned heads really quick during that 2018 offseason, especially once preseason came around, because he showed that, yeah, he is that blocking tight end that the Patriots got. But he also proved that he's a guy that can go out there, run routes, and catch some nice balls for sure. Heading into the 2019 offseason, Ryan Izzo was a guy that he was someone you wanted to watch heading forward. Gronk had retired. The Patriots didn't have too much at the tight end position. He had showed a lot of promise before being placed on the injured reserve the season prior. So he was someone that when you were listening to your mock 53-man final rosters, he was a guy that a lot of people potentially had making that final roster, and that is the exact thing that ended up happening. He was never released throughout the offseason, wasn't placed on the injured reserve. He was kept on the 53 all season. He was a guy that more so played towards the beginning of the season. As the season progressed, the Patriots kind of took him out of the equation, which I really was not a fan of. He played about 6 games, only starting in 4. He had a total of 9 targets with 6 receptions for 114 yards, averaging 19 yards per reception, 1 touchdown, and a long reception of 41 yards. In fact, I believe that Ryan Izzo had a better season than Matt LaCosse. Now, when you look at LaCosse's stats, he played in a total of 11 games in which he started 8 of them. So the Patriots had LaCosse a lot higher here than Ryan Izzo, in which LaCosse was targeted 19 times with 13 receptions for 131 yards, averaging 10.1 yards a reception, which of course is about 9 yards less, but also had 1 touchdown with a long reception of 24. Then, of course, you had Ben Watson, who was essentially the starting tight end here for the Patriots as the season progressed, although he wasn't even on the roster to start the season. They brought him back a few weeks into the regular season, but he played in 10 games and had 24 targets for 17 receptions for 173 yards with 10.2 yards a reception and 0 touchdowns. When I look at all these statistics between Matt LaCosse, Ryan Izzo, and Ben Watson, I think that if they gave Ryan Izzo the same chances that they were giving guys like Ben Watson, who they clearly were not too high on, the fact that they literally didn't even have him on the active roster to start the season, and Matt LaCosse, who really essentially wasn't doing anything, was dropping balls, and was constantly getting injured. Belichick gave them more of a chance, which is, of course, why they had a bit better stats. But in the end, the receiving stats, the yards that they all kind of racked up by the end of the season, were not too far off. In fact, call me crazy, but I think that give Ryan Izzo the same amount of games, the same amount of targets, and the same opportunity, I think that he could have put up at least 200 yards on that season. Now, guys, real quick, there is no shortage of action going on with our exclusive partners at betonline.ag, even though this whole pandemic is still going around. Guys, some of you might be fans of NASCAR. Of course, NASCAR is back. And hey, BetOnline has hundreds of games, events, and sports that you can still bet on despite the pandemic going around. You can bet on simulated NFL, NBA, UFC, or even participate in a $10,000 Madden bracket challenge. That's basically a March Madness style NFL simulation tournament that you can enter, get this, for 100% free. Guys, this is open 24/7, 7 days a week. You guys can do this at the comfort of your own home. You can even do it on your cell phone, on your laptop, anything that has Wi-Fi and internet connection. All you have to do is visit the website or use your mobile device and join today to receive your new welcome bonus and check out all of the action. Guys, BetOnline, your online wagering solution. But back to the video now. The fact that Ryan Izzo, in much less snaps, in much less games, with less targets, was still able to put up around 114 yards, had the best yards per reception out of any of the tight ends, and had the longest catch out of any tight end, and still tied for the most touchdowns by a tight end for the Patriots this past season with 1. Not to mention the fact that I believe that Ryan Izzo is a definitely much better blocker version than Matt LaCosse is. And he's still very young, sitting at just 24 years old. The Patriots really didn't bring in any veteran tight ends this offseason. They had multiple chances to bring in top-notch guys. I mean, you had Austin Hooper, you had Eric Ebron, Greg Olsen, Jordan Reed, Jason Witten. I mean, we could go on and on about the top-notch, veteran options they could have used at tight end, but they didn't. The Patriots still have Matt LaCosse and Ryan Izzo on the current roster. Of course, Ben Watson decided to retire. He's not with the Patriots. So essentially, the only additions the Patriots made at the tight end position were the UDFAs that they have, and of course, Devin Asiasi and Dalton Keene. Both of those guys are coming in as rookies. We don't know what to expect from them. Now, of course, I stand by this opinion that I think Asiasi will be the number 1 tight end on the Patriots active roster. Might take a couple weeks into the regular season, but I definitely think to end it, he will be that number 1 tight end on the roster, on the depth chart rather. But these guys, of course, are going to need to learn. Transitioning from college to the NFL, it can be very tough, specifically for a guy like Dalton Keene, who is transitioning from a smaller college into a big organization like the NFL. They're going to need guys to help get them through this. They're going to need guys to help mentor them, to help teach them the Patriots playbook. And I think that gives a guy like Ryan Izzo a bit of an advantage here because he's been around the Patriots system for a while. The Patriots know what they're getting with him, and of course, the Patriots love that. I think it would be very un-Bill Belichick-like for him to cut guys that actually have experience within the Patriots system for 2 rookies that haven't been proven in the NFL, haven't transitioned to the NFL, and haven't even really come into your system all that much just yet. Izzo has proven that he can be a dual threat tight end. He can be a guy that helps you be less predictable because he can block. He has the ability to help you there, but he also has the ability to go out into the middle of the field and catch passes into the seam, whether it's in traffic or whether it's him just standing wide open. He's able to get the job done, and I'm not comparing him to Gronk at all, but I did see some Gronk-like tendencies, some Gronk aspects in Ryan Izzo when we saw him this season. There was a point where he caught this big pass. Now, I don't remember if it was versus the Jets or if it was versus the Redskins. I believe it was the Jets, but wide open, going down the field, and this guy just stiff arms one of the guys to the ground. Ultimately, Izzo goes down, but the fact that he was able to carry a defender with him for a few yards and just didn't get straight up tackled showed his strength and his ability to get downfield. I really think that Izzo has a lot of potential here to be a good tight end. I'm not saying he's going to be great. I'm not saying he's going to be one of the best in the NFL because that's not what I see from him. He's not the next Gronkowski. I'm not saying he's going to be your number one starting tight end for the Patriots. Not saying he's even a George Kittle or an Eric Ebron. But I just definitely think that there is untapped potential there, and he has shown really nice flashes. And when you see what the Patriots have at tight end, they can really use that right now, and I think that Izzo is even better than Matt LaCosse, at least in the Patriots system. We have seen so much better things from Izzo than LaCosse, and of course, Izzo is taking up much less money than LaCosse is. He's a guy who can catch in traffic. He's a guy that can make really tough grabs, can catch those 50-50 balls, and of course, is able to stretch the field and keep the chains moving. What more are we honestly expecting here from a 7th round pick in Ryan Izzo? I think that he is a guy that for sure needs to make this upcoming roster, even if it comes down to him or LaCosse. That's my own personal opinion. What are your guys' thoughts on Ryan Izzo, seeing him play last year? If you haven't seen him play last year, you haven't seen some of his highlights before, he kind of got taken out of the lineup as the season progressed. Go check him out on YouTube. They're pretty impressive, and I definitely like what I saw from him, and I think if you guys watch them, that you will feel the same thing. That's going to be it for today's video, though, guys. Please like this video if you have not already. It really helps me and the channel out. Subscribe to the channel if you guys would like to for all of your New England Patriots news. But other than that, I will catch you guys in my next video.